Josh Hawley is proposing legislation to restore it. And on that basis, he joins us tonight. Senator, thanks so much for coming on. So tell us what your legislation, and I don't think anybody watching at this point, global warming be damned, doubts your point that we need to be energy independent or else we will always be drawn into conflicts like this. What would your legislation do to restore our energy independence?
Tucker, it would reverse the Biden administration policies that have throttled down our energy independence and greenlighted the Russians. So what my bill would do is it would open up new oil and gas leases. It would say that those pipelines that Joe Biden shut down, that they will be reopened. And it would make it the policy of the United States government to make this country energy independent and to get our energy sector producing full throttle. I mean, here's the deal. Russia is not a country so much as a gas station. And Joe Biden has allowed them to have energy dominance. We've surrendered our energy independence to them. It's time to shut down their energy sector and return ours to full production. That is the way that America can emerge strong from this and also send a message to Russia.
So if you shut down the Russian energy sector, and I'm not I'm not saying they don't deserve it, but what would that do to international petroleum markets? I mean, wouldn't gas prices just immediately go to $9 a gallon if we did that?
That's the problem, Tucker, with what this administration has done. I mean, when Joe Biden came into power over a year ago and immediately throttled down American energy, said no more oil and gas leases, shut down our pipelines, shut down our production, it took much of our energy offline. And it makes us dependent. It makes the rest of the world dependent on Russia. That is exactly what Putin is banking on. I mean, here's the fact of the matter. Right now, Americans are suffering through runaway inflation, higher gas prices, and the Ukrainians are on the receiving end of a massive invasion, in part because of Joe Biden's lefty politics that have empowered people like Putin by making us dependent on their energy. We need to reverse that.
It's so funny how many people buy this nonsense, though. I mean, you even see Republican governor of Texas buying into the windmill lie. I mean, why wouldn't this be an absolute deal killer for Republican voters? If you're making our energy grid unstable, if you're making us more dependent on China for solar panels or Russia for oil, we're not voting for you. I don't know why this isn't a campaign issue.
It ought to be an absolute central issue of American policy, Tucker, and it should be bipartisan. I mean, who wants to be dependent on countries like Russia for our energy? Make the Germans and the Europeans and everybody else buy oil and natural gas and every other form of energy from us. This ought to be where we are leading the world, and we can be. We could. We did just a couple of years ago. We could again if Joe Biden's policies would be reversed, and this is an area where we've got to move, and we've got to move on it right now.
I got to wonder about motive here. I mean, if you're flying to global warming conferences in a private plane and sucking up to China, clearly you don't really care about climate change because you're adding to it. So what would be the motive of someone, our policymakers, to hamper, to hobble, to shut down America's domestic energy production? Like, why would they want to do that, honestly?
Well, I think that part of it is they're enthralled to the environmentalist lobby. I mean, this is Joe Biden's politics. He's totally enthralled to the environmentalist wackos who don't care about American strength. They don't care about American jobs. They don't particularly like the people who work the pipelines, who work the oil rigs. Those folks, they don't have much regard for them. And listen, the truth is, those folks who do that kind of work, that laboring work, those blue-collar workers, they're the backbone of our economy. Put them back to work. Let them get onto those pipelines. Let them get onto those rigs. Show the world what they can do.
I mean, they don't care about the environment, I notice. America's getting much dirtier, and there are like dollar stores everywhere, and people litter. So if you cared about the environment, maybe you'd clean up the environment, but instead they're lecturing us about climate. Maybe it's an intentional effort to weaken the country. Maybe they just don't like America.
Well, I think there is the aspect that they don't believe in this country, Tucker. They don't believe in American strength. They think American strength is bad for the world. They think it makes the world more, unstable, unjust. Exactly the opposite is true. And the bottom line is we've got to do what's good for the working people of this country, for the security of this country. And that begins right now with restoring our energy independence, get this country's energy sector working again.
Last question. If gas prices spike and we're, past $100 a barrel and there's no sense that it's going to go down anytime soon, is there anything the Biden administration can do short term? They keep telling us, well, we can mitigate the gas spike, but I don't know what that would be. What can they do exactly in the near term?
beyond a short-term release of the strategic oil reserve, which they could do, Tucker, but that's no solution. That won't make much of a dent, and it won't last long. What they've got to do is they've got to lift the restrictions on new oil and gas leases and the pipelines. Listen, we could get pumping pretty soon. It wouldn't take long to get American energy back online, but they got to move now.
Yeah. And the big banks have to agree to invest in it. I mean, it's been strangled by ESG, the exploration, which no one ever says. Anyway, Josh Hawley, it's great to see you tonight. Thank you so much, Senator.
Thank you.